Hi everyone, welcome to the Jansen Art Studio on the Jansen Art Education channel here on YouTube. What I'd like to do is I'd like to take about 30, 45 minutes, all depends on how much I talk. I want to show you how we do some Paint It Simply things here, okay? They're a lot of fun. We use just a couple of colors and we use just a couple of brushes. And a lot of it is up here in imagination, and we have to bring that out in you, and we'll show you how to do it. First, let me tell you a little bit about Paint It Simply. The concepts of Paint It Simply is, I think, I've been an artist for 35 years and professional artist. This is how I make my living, and I think that we have made painting so difficult. I've traveled and taught in over 30 different countries in all the major continents of the world, and I think that in all of the studies that I've done and in all the years of teaching that I have done, we tended to make everything really difficult to paint. And so the last few years, what I've done is gone back to the very basics and colors and everything. And so what I do is I take it back down to simple basics of colors. I have two reds, I have a yellow, a blue, a black, and a white. And if you go to paintitsimply.com, or if you visit us on the Jansen Art Studio or jansenartstore.com or globalartsupply.com, we have a lot of different websites. You can see a lot of the paintings that I did. Last year I did over 500 paintings with these colors. I will do what we're going to do here this afternoon. I will do 3 or 4 of these a day. They're very fun, very fast compositional paintings. But I have a cool red and a warm red, a slightly warm yellow, a slightly warm blue. But it's easy for me to cool down with the cool red that I have there. That goes into this whole Paint It Simply concept. I choose colors that I'm going to be able to use very easily, very efficiently. And what we're going to do is going to paint a little set of grapes and blossoms. This is some grapes and blossoms that I've painted before. This little painting here took me 30 minutes. This is some blossoms and plums that I do. I do a lot of different ones on our website. You'll see all different kinds of pattern packets and videos and so forth. Well, let me explain some of the concepts and let's get at it. First thing I'm going to do is I take a bigger brush and I use extender. Now this is extender. This is very dirty. This palette I've been using, I've probably painted 300 paintings with this palette, and it's very dirty, and I don't worry about that. I'm going to take some of my white, big old dollop of my white. These are artist quality paints, so they mix down really well. They're high concentrated pigments. These are acrylics that have been shifted over to respond more like an oil. So these paints that I have out here have about a 4-hour drying time. It's a heck of a lot longer than what I really need to do this painting. And they're really nice. I'm going to add a little bit of black. Let's add just a bit of black to this, and let's warm that with just a bit of our warm red. And we'll get a color that's very close to my medium white color that I've already applied onto the surface here. So let's just apply this. I do a lot of painting with what we call alla prima concepts. Okay, alla prima concepts are beautiful concepts in painting, and it means you're painting them one time through, just one setting of setting down one time, painting it wet in. I'm going to be painting it wet into wet. You don't have to do alla prima wet into wet, but you try to paint the painting into one setting. So I paint quite quickly. I don't use complicated mixes. I don't use complicated techniques or any of this kind of stuff when I do these paintings. These are the most popular types of paintings that I do. And they're a heck of a lot of fun to do. So you can see a lot of these videos on our YouTube channel. You can see a heck of a lot more of them on our store and stuff, because I have over 500 educational videos and painting styles and stuff from around the world. But I give a light coat onto the surface. This gives me something to work my colors into. It's a lot easier when you paint to work something into your colors. Now, one of the questions that we have a lot in the Paint Simply program is how much color. That all depends on the individual artist, how thick I put this on, and it all depends on the technique. And we'll show you that as we get into Paint It Simply, into the techniques, how to do this. I'm going to loosen up the background here. I'm going to add some other kinds of interest to it. Let's say I'm going to do some kind of violet-y type of grape. So I'm going to take a real toned version of that out into the background. I like to do that. This helps me harmonize my colors, carry my colors. There's all kinds of rules that you will learn during the process of these types of paintings that we will do, and how to carry color, model color, and so on and so forth. I will going to make one of the oldest yellows that's in the book here, which is some black and some yellow. a lot of yellow and a little bit of the black. It makes kind of an olively green color. And I'm going to apply some of this, just pound this right down into where I'm going to have some blossoms here, and where I will have some of my grapes. I'm going to put a little thing of grapes right down here. So I'm just going to just model this up. See how I model this up? I call it modeling. And I like to take my hand sometimes and soften that through. You know, there's some of my students say, oh, I don't want to get paint on my hands. You don't have to worry about this. Everything in the entire line, I use Heritage Multimedia. Everything in the painting line is non-toxic, so you don't have to worry about things. As a matter of fact, the extender that I have right there, that dirty stuff that's there, that's a food preservative. It's used in food preparation processes, and you probably have eaten quite a bit of it today. So if you've ever if you like ice cream, well, you like eating that. So that's all of our stuff is completely non-toxic. I'm a big advocate of that, so you don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to put some of this color in here just to model up some of my background. These brushes are specialized brushes. These are very, very soft brushes. They emulate the older what we call the squirrel hair brushes used by the masters, and so they give a very soft application to the paint. It's really fun. They're almost like painting with a mop. They're very soft brushes, but they're not as expensive as you do your sables and stuff like that I used to use in oils. So I'm painting with a non-toxic acrylic color here. Okay, so I have that established in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a smaller little brush. You can paint with any kind of brush. I'm going to use a little flat here. This is a little number 6 flat. That's what I used when I painted these little guys right here on this one. And I'm going to come in and let's just take a little bit of our red violet. This is our cool color. I'm going to toss it right into some black and some yellow here, make kind of a nice little gray color. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to come in here and sketch where I might want to place some flowers. So I'm going to have a blossom here, and let's make these are going to be a bigger blossom, and we might put a daisy or two in there. I don't know. We'll see. I usually paint, and as I paint, I usually draw my pattern at the same time. Sometimes I start with an idea. Sometimes I'll start with, if I'm emulating an old master or something, I'll have that. And sometimes I do this, where I just have no clue and I start to sketch. I'm going to sketch on it. Flowers and blossoms are generally a circle, and I sketch out like this into a circle or an oval if I want to turn a flower. You can move your finger in and out like this if you want to create a blossom to the movement of the blossom here. This is a nice thing about using your hand can create so much nice movement here. So get used to using that. So I can create like 2 little blossoms there quite quickly. Let's just say down in here I'm going to have some other smaller little blossoms like little daisies. As I come further down here, let's just grab a little more red violet in it. Let's just say I'm going to put some grapes down here. And what I'm going to do is not make perfect grapes yet. I'm going to just hang on some colors, just add some colors here. And I'm keeping them cool right now with the red violets. I'm just going to model up this area here of where I want. Let's just put one hanging down there. And maybe some right up over here. That'll be good. Now let's, these are going to be kind of red violet grapes, maybe a little bit of red in it. I'm going to take some more my warmer red, my Naphthol Red Light, and I'm going to model some of this color in here as well. I use all different kinds of techniques to paint the grapes. When I paint the masters and stuff, I'll do grisaille. You'll see, if you go to our website, you'll see where I emulate the masters, the ones that you find in all the museums throughout all the Netherlands. I love those. I have those paintings. And I've done a lot of the master recreation of the paintings, and I use the traditional old techniques of the grisaille, and then I'll use these kind of techniques of modeling up and kind of just pushing in some color right now. I'm not really setting a perfect shape to the grape. What I'm doing is just like I do with the blossoms there, I'm just setting up movement. But when you paint grisaille, like we do with the masters at the Dutch Golden Age, boy, we do a lot of grisaille gray shaping and layers and layers and layers of color and stuff. So I have some paintings there that I'll spend several months on getting those. I like to paint them all. They're all good. So here I'm just setting up some warm color. Not the violets yet that I'm going to be going to, but I'm just setting up some ideas and some movements of my color. And I'm not really setting any shape. We call this painting out of focus. What we're going to do is take the painting out of focus, establish some shapes, and then slowly, it's like turning the knob on a camera, slowly bringing into focus, and that'll keep the casual nature and feeling and flow. So see, what I do is I slowly bring the painting into focus, what you want to do, so we keep it soft, okay? So let's take a little bit of this color. Also, where we have some of this, let's toss, I'm going to do some big white blossoms here, but we might as well toss a little bit of this into here as well. And see, I'm going to kind of preserve that movement, this sketching movement of my brush here. So, but I want to get all kinds of color going on in here. You know, we can always soften this color down. We can always do that art thing and just soften it all down. I'm going to take a little more yellow and black, and I'm going to establish a little more green going on here. Sometimes I'll vary that with a tiny bit of blue here. I always tell my students, every day you paint, you're going to paint a little different. And we have, in the Paint It Simply, we do have good artistic concepts that we try to follow. One of the things I'm doing right now is just using what we call negative painting in the program. We have a little thing called technique called negative painting. And I'm using color, background color, and painting in the negative, taking out some areas of my design, shaping up with what will be leaves and stuff like that, and establishing edges and stuff like that with the negative, or a background element, not the color of the flower. So I'm painting with the background now, not the color of the flower. So I'm just going to do a little negative here and there, just to create a little bit more movement there. So now I've got this nice soft little bit there. Since the grapes are going to be really interesting here, let's start in on those. I'm going to take some red violet down now, and I'm going to start looking for some contrast, a little bit of shape and a little bit of contrast. So I'll start a little stroke of the red violet here, just movement that into the grape here, and I'm using lots of paint here. Let's just find, there'll be another grape right here. So what I do is I'm kind of looking at, where am I going to be seeing some grapes in here? I see one over here. Okay. And maybe I'll turn this one. Even though it doesn't look too much like one yet, we can turn it into one. Let's turn that one right there into one. Let's come down here and turn this into one. Maybe a soft little one right there. And so I'm just beginning to turn that knob onto camera here and start to focus a little bit about what might be a grape here, what might be a grape, what might not be. Soften some of them. A lot of times I say just swirl it with your finger here. And, you know, this swirl, these are beautiful, beautiful colors. They feel like, oh, you don't have to worry about anything, though, because we have none of those icky solvents and all that kind of stuff. It's all completely non-toxic. There's nothing to worry about. But it feels just like the oils. It has the color quality of the oils. I was an oil painter for many years. And so now I paint with these. And most people that go to our website and see stuff, they think I paint in oils, and it's not true. I haven't painted in oils for 30 years. So I'm going to add just a little bit of this color down here. We want this one to go soft focus, so I'll stay that right down in there like that. So we'll get some grapes going here. Maybe we'll just give an impression of a soft focus one here. Soft focus one here. And I like to take the edges out. So we take it out of focus, we soften the edges here. We blur the edges, or what we call the lost edge in painting. It's called the lost edge. And we'll add a little more color. We'll add some more color to those in just a bit. But I'm going to work this time, you know, kind of the whole painting at a time here. So I'll be putting in some more heavy color here like this into some of these areas as I bring more into focus. Here. There we go. Now let's take some of that heavy violet here. Toss a little bit of that. I love that violet because it's a beautiful, cool color, and I'm putting it in any place that I want to recede and go back. And generally, it's inside flowers, inside the bowls of roses, back edges of, and some of these grapes and high contrast areas of the grapes. We'll have that in there. Okay, and let's take a little bit of that violet in our green. Makes beautiful, since I have a lot of violet and green. Well, let's take that violet and green right here and make these beautiful gray colors, which I'll use this into a little bit more into these model. What I'm looking for is what we call modeling. I just tap my color through like this, and I generally don't do this where I over mix it too much. I like it modeled like this, so you see all kinds of colors going on, because that just adds all kinds of nice colors and movements to your flowers here. And it gives me a wonderful grounding here to start drawing my blossoms, my flowers on with my whites. Okay, so now I set those in there. We're going to want to get some kind of, let's put some kind of yellowy kind of daisies in here too. So we'll drop a little bit of color. Isn't it? It's hard to see it yet, right? You just go, wow, what did you just do? I'm just tossing it in there right now. I'm just creating model movement. I'm not finding a flower. So many of us jump into our flower too fast. We jump into that flower to get that thing, and because especially if you're a decorative painter, you start as a decorative painter like I did, you want to jump in and you want to fill in that pattern line because we put on this pattern. Well, it's you don't do that. You just put in all this soft focus, and hey, I'm going to have some little flowers in here, and I know they're going to be kind of yellow, so I'm just going to kind of yellow this area right up in here, and that'll work great for me. That'll work great. Matter of fact, maybe we'll push a little bit back up over here. Maybe there's going to be some right back here and one right back here. We'll know here in just a little bit, but you can see it's slowly starting to come into focus here. Now, I like my white, and this is what I really love about these. These are, these acrylics are totally different than a lot of other acrylics, in that a lot of acrylics, are really thin. They always talk about flow acrylics and thin acrylics. These aren't. These are very, very thick acrylics here, and I love to use and I can control that, how thin or how thick. So my white that you see here is very, very thick. My red violet, I like to keep a little bit more creamy, like you see here. So I adjust the colors a little bit. And a lot of my students always ask me what consistency are colors. Most of the time, I like my colors not completely stiff, but I like that white like toothpaste. Okay, so we'll take some of this white here. And we'll take some of this white here, and I'll really pound this into the brush here, and really quite a bit of it. And I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to use this real stiff paint. Let's draw across the top front of what we're going to have a blossom here, and we're going to have it open up here. So let's just, and then pull down like this. This will help us shape the blossom. Push and pull. I like to push and pull and set up the movement of the bowl of this kind of blossom here. We can use this around the back to start some of the petals. Okay, here, and let's start some of this petaling here. And again, I'm going to be looking for some movement here. I'll move that back and forth with my finger. Sometimes I'll take my finger just like this and soften that whole bowl movement just like that. Okay, let's zoom in just a little bit more. This one that's over here, I'll draw more like this. And let's use these a little bit flatter across in like this, pulling in and out of the center. In the other, I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time with this DVD, but in the educational DVDs, we slow down and we teach you every little thing about the strokes and what we're doing here. This is just to give you a feeling of what Paint It Simply is all about, and should this be something that you want to try to start to learn. Okay, so that's what we try to use our YouTubes for, is giving you some ideas of what it is that you would like to paint. We don't take this tremendous amount of time to get into the educational part of the DVD because we don't have that kind of time, okay? but it'll give you an idea here. And so what I'm going to do, one technique that I like to do is I model my brush, but then I'll just slide it over like this and I'll pick up a heavy corner of that color. And that heavy corner is what I use to start to bring the petal into focus here, drawing it into focus. Now sometimes I stroke in, sometimes I stroke out. I paint what the flower needs. I don't paint a specific technique. When I started painting, and in oils, many years ago, they would, say, okay, you start this petal, this petal, this petal. Paint what's in back and work to the front. I don't do that anymore. I paint what the flower needs, and it's a heck of a lot more fun to paint that way. And so our job now as instructors is to teach you how to build, how to see flowers so you can paint pretty flowers. And we have little ways and little mechanisms and little things that we do to show you how to paint some of these flowers. To see these flowers, we show you. That's all part of our job here. I'm going to put just a tiny bit of yellow in some of this too and get a little bit of the yellow. See, I picked up that yellow from over there, and that's just going to carry that color into that flower. I love this thick white like this. It allows me to build here. And I'll put some of this movement on this flower and this one here. And then we'll go back and paint some more on the grapes, and then come back, and what we say revisit this flower again. We'll revisit again. I'm just going to put some paint on it right now. Just get some coloring in it so I can see a little bit more of it. I'm just tapping this really heavy here so I can put up some heavy color here into the front of this blossom here. There, like that. This kind of blossomy rose there. Opened up flower. And pull this down a bit. And you can always restate something, take a little bit of your dark or color like that and pull back out and lift back off some of that light color if you want to get some of that other color underneath. Let's go, while we have that developed a little bit, let's go back in and develop some of our grapes. I'm going to take some of my warm and cool color, tap it over here to my lights, and model this onto the brush. See how your brush is modeled? You don't want to paint with a solid color onto the brush when you're painting these things. You want to paint them modeled. So my color will come out a little different on each one. That's what we want. And I might come back and let's grab a little more red and a little more red violet and stuff, and I might come back and just reset the dark on some of those sometimes like that. And sometimes I might just set in a little light stroke here. And when I'm painting these, they're a slight curved stroke, just like a little grape would be. Sometimes I just use my finger there to soften that out. Here. Let's grab a little more mottled color. Let's just grab a little onto there. And we'll add a little here to this one. So I'm warming the color, the red, just a little bit and bringing some of it out. Little touches of it here and there to the grapes. Not looking for like a highlight yet. Sometimes that's coming out a little light and I can remove that back. What I'm doing is just adding a little bit more of a soft, not quite a complete circle, just a little curved stroke movement to these here. Little curved movement. Painting them with a filbert, I use a filbert a lot. Painting them with a filbert is going to give you a different look than what I'm painting them with right now. So, and I use all different kinds of, like I say, techniques and move. This is a more casual application of one. Sometimes I give myself, 30-minute paintings. You'll find that here on our YouTube video. I'll say, okay, I'm going to take 30 minutes and paint a painting. I'm not going to do these in 30 minutes, but this one right here actually took me as a 30-minute painting. It took me 30 minutes to paint this one. But this one here, we won't take quite that. I'll just develop it a little bit for you so you can see it here and see how we go through a process. You can see it's very fun. And I try not to touch too many times with the same color. That'll make them all the same. We don't want to do that. So I'm constantly referring back to my palette here and adding a little bit more color, a little bit more, and I'm starting to bring these into focus just a bit here. You know, I look at each grape, what it needs. Does it need a little more shadow restated? Does it need a, you know, light white onto it, a light color onto it? You know, is it in a soft focus area here? Do I need to just drag the background around on that to keep that soft? You know, what does this grape need? And I paint what each one needs. That's how we do this. That's how we paint these. This is what makes them fun. So I'm going to increase the light here, increase the white, maybe a touch of yellow into this, and I'm going to really bring up the center focus now here into the center of the grape. So we'll bring that and just soften that in a bit. Sometimes I'll touch it there and I'll put a little bit of dark back into my brush and take out if I get a little too much there. Here we go. And I want to, these top ones that are right up here, I do want to edge a little bit more and get some of this nice reddish tone in there. There we go. And I got some pretty color. Get a little light going in that one. There, that's pretty. Every artist will paint them a little different, and you know, I like to, you know, I always like to tell my students each day is a different painting day, and you'll feel a little different. And if you are doing it correctly, every time you paint it, you'll do it different, because that means you're connected to the right side of your brain here. You're not copying with the left side. You're connected to the right side, and you're just painting what this thing needs to do to be beautiful. Okay, so our job is to get our technique relaxed enough that we slide into our right side. And it's pretty hard for me because I got to try to teach you and get into that right side, but I do so many of them. Like I said, 500 paintings last year of these types of paintings right here. I can slide in and out, and that's all it is. That is all it is. It's not talent. It's not anything like that. It's just sheer repetition. I'm looking for color movement, warm, cool, placement, and trying to stay casual with what I paint, so that, and constantly wiping on my brush, staying very, very casual with what I paint, so that I try not to set up, you know, touch. Each one is a little bit different. That's what I'm looking for here, making each one, you know, appear a little bit different as I'm painting it here. That's what I want. So we can even add a little bit of touch of yellow here, since we'll have that yellow in there. That's kind of pretty. There we go. And everyone will have different ways, different ones they like. I have certain grapes that I like. I love Mignon's grapes. You can see that. Those are my favorite ones to paint. You can see that on our website. I love the technique. I love the grisaille technique. It makes such interesting grapes. It's the true master's way. But yet, you take an alla prima grape like this, and it's just a heck of a lot of fun. And it's actually, I think, harder to paint these types of grapes than it is the Mignon grapes, because this is, you know, understanding all the principles one time through and not using a whole bunch of layers. So we're going to just add a little bit of the shadow back in here, just to shapen up some of these here without putting in too much contrast. I want to leave that contrast, that focus right in there. These I want to take softer and out of focus here. There we go. There, just like that. Let's put a little bit of light here on this one. There we go, and then we'll come in and establish some little shines on them, and we'll go up and paint our blossoms. So a little corner of the brush, tap into some of that shine. that got a little too much up there, so I'll just take that out just a bit. Let's restate that light right in there. And wipe my brush and lift off and soften through. I want to create movement. Let's put a little more red in that one. But I work this one right up in here a little bit more because it's right up in front. And it's right up, going to be right up by those blossoms. And so we'll work it a little bit here to make sure that one looks pretty good. And the other ones can come off a little bit and fade away. But that one needs to be a little bit more taken care of. A little more concern to it. And we'll tap little light shines. Little shines. Here, just tap those in. Here we go. That's a little bright down there. Just hit it again, and it'll fade off. So you can add more to it, you can add less, you can add more contrast if you want, but that's pretty good for now. I might add a little more dark right in there. It's pretty good for now until we get some more colors onto our blossoms, and then we'll come back and decide, yeah, let's take a little bit more. Hey, you know, it's fun this way. You can just change your mind. Yeah, I'm going to do a little bit more right now. So I'll just do a little bit more. Not too much more, Dave, because you got to see what the color relates on the other ones. So don't get all locked up and work on just one, you know, one element. We got to work the elements. Let's take some of that violet. Let's restate it right down in here to the bowl of this flower. This here, that'll work that through. There we go. And out here, that movement out there, that's good. And we'll take some of our light. Let's increase our yellow in that as well. Get a little more yellow working into that. Let's get a little more yellow into this one. Here, we want that. That's good. Then we'll now work very heavy white up into the fronts of these. Here, because I want the front to really come forward. So now I'm going to take up this very thick white and really just kind of lay it down on the surface and drag it there and just put on some white, heavy white onto that. I'll wipe my brush and I'll lift back out to find that red violet shadow that I just put on there. So I get a little bit of shadowing on there. I can edge like I showed you before and just put on the edge of the petals a little bit more. If I want to get down to a pure white, sometimes I'll come down to a clean area on my palette and just load my brush with pure white that I can use to really build up a light petal here on this flower. There we go. Around like that to get a little roundness to it. Here. That's good there. And we'll take some of that pure white, we'll take it right into the edge here. We'll draw the back petals here. Around. So a little bit more of a complicated painting than I've done on some of the other ones on the YouTube here and some of my other channels. I'm working a little bit more into here, but I love this, you know, this focus of these types of grapes here. And building, this is I start to get to what we call, there's a technique in some of the paint simply we call the flow texture technique, which is a wonderful technique that the Impressionists started to use when we start to really get our colors heavy onto the surface. And acrylic painters don't normally do, well, a lot of painters don't normally do that. And we really start to get this thick, thick, thick color onto the surface, building it in. And the colors just start to model together. So now I'm really into thick colors that you see here as I'm applying it. And I'm starting to use the colors, just almost troweling them on, wiping them off like this, and then I can take back off to reveal my shadows here. But I can pick up an edge and draw little petals here. Before we go too much further, let's take some of our red violet and maybe some darker green color here. Let's put in the dark color here into the center. Let's tap a little bit of a center color in. Here. Just model that around with your finger a bit. And get a little bit of yellow into that. Let's put some into this one as well. I love that when those colors are really thick now and they're really modeling, what we call modeling together. Not blending, they're not becoming one, they're looking like marble. That's what I want it to do. Let's come right out here. We'll take some of this dirty gray green here, and we'll set up for some of our little daisies that we might have out here. Let's state those real quick. Out here. Then we'll add some leaves. But let's do some of these. So we'll pick up some of our thick white now. Just tap it right down here into this. And sometimes I pull out to do them. Sometimes I pull in. But I'm using really, really thick paint. Really, really thick paint. Here. There we go. And we'll tap a little dark into it. Sometimes I take my finger and I'll work in and out of that before I put a final color in. We'll get that violet and black and a little yellow into that and put in a nice little dark center here. We can tap a little bit of that yellow into that. That's good. Let's get another one over here. Kind of the movement of one in there. A little softer one. Let's bring a few of the petals up here front though. By heavy texture. Just pick up lots of texture. Just pull it, set it out here. Maybe come across the front here. Like one or two there. Drop this in. There we go. Move that in and out a bit. You know, we state some whites, a little more white. We state some. Now, if you want to have your daisies more to the yellow side, now it's time. Grab some Hansa here, my bright yellow, some white. We'll model that together here. And we'll stroke on some of our yellows, taking these slightly to the yellow side. Here. And you can lift out center shadows of the centers. I do this all the time, so I'll stroke that on and then I'll lift out the center color back out. So usually on a daisy I'll stroke it 3-4 times just to get it to, sometimes with the shadow out, sometimes the light in, until I get it to where I like it. Then we'll tap in the real dark center and then its other colors. There we go. So we got a couple of those in there. Let's grab some nice greens here. Maybe even a tiny bit of blue in that this time. And let's put some ideas of our leaves that are going to come out here. Get it a little darker, a little cooler here. A little black, a little yellow. Let's get a little more contrast right in here. That's good. Up in here. The idea of leaf and a little modeling dark color. Sometimes I'll take the leaf and put it like right up over the edge. Sometimes I'll leave it like that back behind it there a bit. And all kinds of hundreds of ways. As a matter of fact, you go to the website, you'll see all kinds of ways in which I'll set paintings and compositions up. All kinds of ways I'll use. And back here, I want these to get a little bit softer because I'm moving to the back part of my painting again. I want it to recede, so I'm going to stay soft back there. Do that. We'll just keep this back here. Little accents, a little bit. Maybe the idea of a little yellow daisy back here. You pick up just the idea of one. Here. Maybe over here. There's one back there. Just very, very soft, translucent almost. Back here. You can give the feeling of a little center to them. But see, I'm painting them very quickly because they're way in the back, just like back grapes and stuff. Maybe out here, drop down just a bit. The idea of one coming out here. Give it the idea of a calyx. And grate down a bit there. There we go. Just a little soft movement there. Got it a bit much there, so I just run through the brush through it again and then soften it out. Let's put a little calyx on it. A little softer one here. Just like they're kind of turned to the back there a bit and give the idea of a little calyx there. A couple little accent leaves coming out. There we go. And we'll take a little brighter yellow green here. And we'll add some light green right in here to our, see if we can get just a touch of blue, but we'll get a nice light kind of green right here. Nice light green. And just kind of heavy color because we paint thin color to thick color here like an oil technique. And we'll just get a little heavier here. Building and building and building more color. And I'm finding with this this beautiful brush, the secret. I have one of my students who's a very, very experienced teacher and who's traveled over 1 million miles like I have around the world teaching painting. And she said, the secret to that whole thing is this brush. And I said, yes, I know. It's very true. Now I'll look back for contrast back in there again. You can negative paint in and add little spaces in between your flowers and so in there if you want. Look for some slight differences in your colors. Get some differences in some of these greens. Add some colors out here, strokes out here like this to loosen up and lighten up your design. Here, and then we'll come in here and there we go, just model that up. Now we'll come in and we'll establish our final lights and stuff. Let's do a little around the blossom here. Let's do some little petals around the center. There we go. And we'll restate some of our darks in there. Get some of that movement around there into that center. So I go back and forth a lot. The colors are real thick. I go back and forth to establish the movement that I want to have on that flower. Here, and let's build this edge out a little bit more. Nice heavy white paint. And lift off. Just put it on and lift it off until you get to the correct look, because you'll see the look that it has there, and then find the look that you want to have. I'm going to reestablish my dark, and then we'll tap some centers in. Here. Reestablish my dark around here. Sometimes I do a lot of painting in the center with the dark like that to set that in there. Now we'll just take some corner with a little Hansa and a little white here. And we'll just kind of tap that in. Create a little flower there. We'll do the same in our little daisy here. Create a little yellowish white and Hansa right on the corner of the brush and just tap it in there. And you're constantly referring back to the palette here to grab some more color, and so it's going to look different here. Let's grab a little more white here. Build this up a little bit more. There we go. I just love just to grab that white, lay it on, and just pull it down into position and let it kind of model through in there and get the interest that I want it to have. There. So it's like a little white rose right here, open rose, wild roses, open rose. Sometimes I paint very specific flowers. Sometimes I just kind of just paint flowers, pretty little flowers. And sometimes I use photo inspiration, sometimes I don't. Here I'm not, just going to paint some flowers. Here to go with some grapes for you today. And it's really kind of fun. To paint it very casual, paint it simply way. And there's all kinds of looks. We have landscapes and we have seascapes, we have more defined ones. We have paintings that are painted simply, but they're a little bit more, what I say, not as casual as this. And we have some that are very casual, even more casual. There's all kinds of looks for you to try with these techniques. But they're fun little paintings, fun little techniques. Hope you enjoy them. Okay, look forward to painting with you again here at the Educational Channel on YouTube. We have a lot of videos for you. And if you're looking for this type of techniques, head on over to the JansonArtStore.com. We have a lot of videos over there, a lot of instructional purposes, and a step-by-step process of how to get to being able to do something like this. Very fun, very casual, and just have a heck of a lot of fun painting. Okay, look forward to painting with you again. Look for more videos, and I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.